everyone, Amy here. It's been a long time since I have made a crime video, but I'm back, and tonight is episode 4, entitled I Didn't Want to Get Involved, the case of Kitty Genovese's murder. So if you took any psychology classes in school, you may have read about this case. So if you know, you know, and if you don't know why this case was heard all around the world, we'll get into that soon. So let me get to my notes here. Kind of winging it like as usual. So Kitty Genovese was born on July 7th, 1935 in Brooklyn, New York. And it's kind of ironic, the family, after Kitty graduated, the family moved to Connecticut, except she stayed behind in New York City. And it was because her mom had witnessed a murder, and just very ironic. So Kitty was 28 years old, and she was a bartender at Ev's 11th Bar. And on March 13th, 1964, she returned to her apartment that she shared with her girlfriend, Mary Ann Silanko. And they lived in Kew Gardens, which was supposedly a really peaceful, quiet, safe place. But little did she know she was being stalked by Winston Moseley, age 29. And he was, trolling the streets to find a woman. And he later said that he liked to pick women to murder because they put up less of a fight, which is horrible. But he had spotted her when she was stopped at a traffic light. So she parks her car in the parking lot across from the apartment building. And she starts walking towards the building, and she notices Winston Moseley coming at her with a hunting knife. And she tries to run, but he catches up with her, and he stabs her multiple times. So she screams something to the extent of like, "Oh my God, help me, I've been stabbed." And one man shouted, "Let that girl alone." And so Winston Moseley left. So Kitty is making her way to the back of her apartment complex, where there's another door. And she's in the hallway outside. It's an outside hallway. And Winston Moseley comes back, stabs her several more times, rapes her, and robs her of $49. So a couple of people did call into the police, but there was no response. And back then, there wasn't a centralized 911 system. You would have to call a 7-digit number to the local police station, the local fire station. And, I was talking to my dad about that. And, how many people will remember this number? And he reminded me that they had that number on phone booths and everything, but you would have to find a phone booth, and it was just hard. And I just think of, really small police stations, and one guy goes to the bathroom and the phone goes unattended. I don't know, that's just the way my mind works. But the Genovese case was instrumental in actually starting the 911 system a few years later. So she's dying in the stairwell, and one of her neighbors, Sophia Farrar, yelled for someone to call the police. And so another man called the police, and they arrived within minutes this time. Unfortunately, Kitty was dying, and Sophia was holding her. Um, it was it was a good revelation several years ago that she didn't die alone. This woman came forward and said, I was with her in her dying moments. Unfortunately, she passed away um, in the ambulance on the way to the hospital. Now, Winston Moseley, he was 29, and he was out looking for a woman while his wife and children slept. Um, he was a sick man. He also had what do I want to say? He leaned towards necrophilia, which is sex with the dead. So he was a very sick man. He ended up getting caught a few days later because someone saw him burglarizing a house and taking a TV. So they caught him, and he had the TV in the trunk. And one of the detectives remembered someone saying there was a white Corvair at the murder. And so he was taken into custody, and he confessed to the killing and rape and robbery of Kitty Genovese and actually two other women. He confessed. It's interesting because different sources had different information. Like there was a lot of conflicting information out there. In 2016, her younger brother did a documentary revisiting the case, and he only mentioned there was one other woman. So I'm not quite sure, but I was surprised to find out that Winston Moseley, the murderer, could actually be technically called a serial killer. And that really surprised me about the case. I did not know that. So, why is this case so important to us? Why did it touch the world? And the answer is because there were many eyewitnesses in the apartment building. And originally they said 37 or 38 people. And they later said that was wrong, but it could have been more, it could have been less. And none of them intervened. No one came out. People actually said when they were interviewed later, I didn't want to get involved. So they came out, saw what was going on, and then they went back to bed. And so people were horrified to find this out. What's going on? Why didn't anybody intervene? And this case ended up creating the term by the bystander effect. It's also called the Genovese effect. And it's diffusion of responsibility. And it basically states that the more people present witnessing a crime, the less they're likely to get involved. And that's because one person thinks that someone else will do it, that person thinks someone else will do it, and then nothing gets done. There was a case, I think a few years ago, where a woman was sexually assaulted on a train or subway, and nobody intervened. And they're in close quarters there, so what did the people do? Did they just turn their heads away? And, I remember hearing about this case, and I did, because I'm a highly sensitive person, I did a lot of soul searching. I was thinking, okay, what would I have done in that case? Would I have intervened? Would I have done something? Or would I have thought, oh, someone else is going to do it, and not done anything? And, the bystander effect can be applied in so many different aspects of life, not just witnessing a crime, but it, the homeless, for instance. If someone sees a homeless person, they might say, "Oh, someone else will give," and then that person's like, "Someone else will give," and then nothing gets done. So it can be applied to absolutely anything that people are witnessing. So let me look at my notes here. Okay, so Winston Moseley was found guilty, and originally he was sentenced to death, but they commuted the sentence to life in prison with the possibility of parole. And he was up for parole 6 different times, and fortunately they denied him, which I think is good because he was a very sick man. With his urges, to rape and kill women and then to have sex with them after they were dead. So he made one escape a few years later. He took 5 people hostage and raped a woman in front of her husband. And so that just shows, he wouldn't stop if he got out. He would just resume where he left off. So um, in prison, he was a very intelligent man. Um, in prison, he was, I think, one of the first inmates to um, graduate or get a degree in prison in New York. And he said that he was reformed and, he was sorry for what he did. But I don't know. I kind of wondered if that was just for show and that he was just trying to say the things that people wanted him to say to show remorse so that, he might be considered um, to be paroled or to get paroled. He was sent to Attica, and yes, the famous one, the one where I remember watching a documentary in college. I think it was in a criminology class, and basically, if you don't know what that was, it was a riot where the inmates rose up against the guards, and it was very violent. They were making homemade blowtorches and catching the guards on fire. It was very violent. So I thought that was really interesting that he was sent to Attica. But they started to interview all these people, and so many of them said I didn't want to get involved. And it was just really surprising, and if you think about it, they were in the comfort of their own apartment building. They weren't on the street like I thought, when I read about the case. I thought there was a whole group of people outside watching it happen. But they were in the safety of their own apartments. So, if they called the police, nobody's gonna know that they did that. It was just unbelievable that people witnessed that and went to bed. Some people said, "Oh, we thought it was a bar fight, or a couple fighting." They were kind of in the shadows, so it was a little hard to see. But things were different back then when it came to domestic violence. It was almost like what happens in the home stays in the home and between, the husband and wife. So there is definitely a different perception of domestic violence. And, unfortunately, this case, made basically history because of the lack of intervention. But it wasn't uncommon in the big city to have rapes and murders occur. So it's almost like maybe people just got hardened or something. But yeah, I did a lot of soul searching to figure out if I what I would do in that situation. So I've witnessed a couple of crimes. One was possibly a crime. I don't know. I was in New Orleans on vacation, and I had just stepped out of the hotel, and across the street, in front of a store, there was what I thought was a homeless man and another larger man, and he seemed to be um, harassing the homeless man. But I was like, okay, I don't know the dynamics of what's going on. I don't know that, they're fighting. They're in front of a store, so they'll be seen. I think it'll be okay. And I didn't do anything. And I've always wondered, should I have done something? Did I read it wrong? Um, I didn't know what to do. And there weren't, there weren't a lot of people around. So I felt the responsibility, um, on my chest. So yeah, I don't feel very good about that. I think maybe I should have done something. And then my friend and I were riding in the car one day, and we were stopped at a stoplight, and there was a man standing on the corner getting ready to cross the street, and this other man comes up and just cold cocks this guy, lays him out. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, did I just see what I saw? And I'm going to say I can be a little feisty, a little mouthy. So I didn't confront the guy who did it, um, so to speak, but I pointed at my phone and pointed at him and glared at him. And I did call the police and called it in. And I checked later to make sure the guy was okay, and he was. But I guess sometimes you might be stunned to be witnessing a crime. You're like, oh my gosh, is this really happening? There was also said to be some Jewish people who had been in concentration camps living in the apartment building, and it's possible that they didn't, they wanted to be low key. Um, we'll really never know. Now, in 2016, Kitty's younger brother made a documentary. He revisited the crime, and this was absolutely horrific. It was very emotional. But he hired an actress to reenact the screams of Kitty to see if other people, would be able to hear her, and if people in the apartment complex would hear her. And it was so emotional. And, her poor brother was just, in tears. And it tore at my heart. I felt very bad for him. But she did not die in vain. Like I said, she was, this case was instrumental in implementing the centralized 911 system in the country, which is wonderful. Let's see. And then her brother he wanted to visit Winston Moseley, but Winston declined, which I thought was very odd because I was thinking, if you are truly sorry, and have remorse, then you should talk to him, or you should want to talk to him. So he ended up talking to his son. And I don't know, this is just my opinion, and it might not be a good one, but I thought the son was really, in a sense, he was a victim, but I think he was more concerned with his victimization and not that a woman had been killed. He was very clear to say that we all suffered, which that's absolutely true. He lost his father, but I don't know. I thought he could have been more sensitive. But that's just my opinion. You can get on YouTube and and find it. The documentary is called The Witness, and it was really good, very thorough. Let's see. So, you can comment below if you've ever witnessed a crime, what you did, what you didn't do, your thoughts on the case. And if there's a case that you want me to cover, please let me know. I like doing older cases that you don't hear so much about these days because everybody's doing, the new cases. But I also like to do the old cases because a lot of the people involved have passed, and I don't want to hurt, any of the family members by doing a case, doing their case. So, I am not sure what my next topic will be, but stay tuned. Thanks for watching.